today I'm going to be bragging, and it's not a very humble brag. So, the last four books that I have read have been, well, quick disclaimer, I'm not in the business of rating books because I genuinely feel like it might be a 5 star for me and it might just be very bottom tier for you. So it's a bit iffy. However, today I'm going to make a very, very important exception because all the books I have read, the five past books I have read, have been well, four books I have read have been 5 stars. And I feel like I just want to talk about them in like rapid fire. I'm not wasting any much time. I'm not going to give you like so much of a synopsis because I want you to experience all these books for yourself. And again, most of them, actually all of them, if I wanted to like explain everything, I wouldn't really be able to. I listened to Finding Me, Viola Davis's memoir. Fucking fantastic. So I was watching a random YouTube video one time and someone had like, it was like a YouTuber who had an ad for Audible, and I'm not necessarily someone who listens to audiobooks like willingly, even though I have a couple of videos back I recommended some audio dramas and like two audiobooks or so, but necessarily my preferred way of reading a book is not through audio. However, it's Finding Me by Viola Davis, and I've seen quite a number of people say if you're going to read this book you have to listen to it because she actually narrates the book herself. And I thought, okay, this is a one in a million, type opportunity. I have a free credit thingy from someone, like a free promo. I'm not paying for anything. Why not? So I started listening to this woman's book on my couch, this couch right here, and I stared up into my ceiling for at least 3 hours straight. I was just lost, and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't multitasking. I wasn't working. I was just sitting, listening. That's how good the memoir is. It's amazing. Now, I don't necessarily seek out memoirs. However, I read I'm Glad My Mom Died last year, and I read Viola Davis's, and now there's one more on my list. It's Trevor Noah's memoir because I've also seen a lot of people recommend it, and I'm thinking maybe I am now just going to start listening to memoirs that I've really, really seen people write about because why not? So Viola Davis's memoir. Now, unless you really, really hate listening to books, maybe pick it up and read it. I really don't know what that experience would be like, but just listening to her, she does a lot of voices from like family members to people that she's come across in life, to just like the emotion and her emoting and like the way she talks about things. It's fucking fantastic, and I don't think there's a better experience. It's just captivating. That's the word, captivating. So Viola Davis's memoir, Finding Me, listen to it, do yourself a favor, and it's a go. And I mean, again, you can't even really rate someone's memoir because like it's her life, it's someone's life, so it's really, really particular to them, people that might be able to relate, and people who are really just like familiar with that person. So you can't really rate it, but it's really, really good, and just go forth and enjoy. It's an amazing experience. Okay, secondly, I talked about this already in like 2 videos ago, but Yellowface by Eric Wag. This is the first time I'm reading something by this author, and I remember saying I want to see everything else that she writes. Being Babel, which is already on my list, has been on my list for quite some time. This book, you're reading from one person's POV, and it's someone who, for some people, might be very flawed. For some other people, might just be very unique in choices. For some other people, that might just be like an asshole and an asshat. I enjoyed this book. This book also gives you like a very satirical and humorous way to seeing how the publishing world works as well, just for anyone who might be very interested. And I think as well, for people who might not be in that world, just like from being from the outside looking in, is going to be very fucking hilarious and interesting as well to see. This book I recommend. I started reading this book on a flight because I was going for my grandma's birthday and I just really needed something to kind of take me out of everything I had been reading. So I was, maybe still am, on like a romance reading ban. I just didn't want to read romance, and then I didn't want to read like thriller, psychological thriller, because those are things I really read like all the time. Those are like my current reads. I didn't want to read, I don't know, did something unique, and this was the book I kind of like sought out in the bookstore. It had just come out as well, and just to kind of again use one moment to describe how this book was going, because I will not be giving you synopsis. I started reading this book on the flights. It was a night flight, and the flight took off, and I was that person who turned on the lights. I was like, I'm not going to sleep. Even though I slept like an hour later, but like I was deep in it. Just to give you the beginning of the book, right? There's this like two authors who are friends, but one of them dies, and she's an Asian author, and the other person who doesn't die is a white author, and she steals her manuscript and publishes it as her own. You've probably seen this book anywhere. I don't think there's anyone on this planet who hasn't read this book, and if you haven't, I promise you, this is one of those books where it's a lot of hype, and I think it's worth it. I believe it's worth it. You're going to run through it so quickly. It's fucking delicious. Go for it. Okay, I just finished this book maybe 2 days ago. My Sister the Serial Killer. Funny story. I for anyone who's probably seen any of my vlogs on TikTok, but I was reading this. So when I started Yellowface, I had started it before I left the house because I wanted to see if I would really enjoy it. And when I started Yellowface on the bathroom in my house the morning of my flight, I was like, I'm going to finish this book quickly and a lot faster than I expected during this trip. So I need a backup book, and My Sister the Serial Killer was the backup book. I really can't give you a very, very thorough synopsis because I think it's going to be very interesting for you to go blindly. The older sister is a nurse and she's almost like very responsible, and her younger sister just happens to be killing all the people she dates. And you see how there's some sort of like interesting bond where it's not envy, it's not jealousy, it's more of like, why are you so careless with life? And I just happen to be the the responsible one. The younger sister has been described as very like attractive. She's been getting all the guys since secondary school, since high school. This book is also set in Lagos, Nigeria, which was so good for me, and I enjoyed it a lot more. So maybe I am a bit biased because the slangs, the scene settings, the family dynamics was sensational. For someone who is not maybe Nigerian, you might not be able to understand it as much, but I do believe your imagination will take you there if you enjoy reading and you just enjoy place setting and setting up a world by yourself and everything. That might be a bonus for you as well. But the book starts off, with this younger sister killing her current boyfriend and kind of seeing how they are covering up this murder and everything else that happens afterward. It's really, really good. Now, if you've seen this book anywhere on the internet, some people are not and were not satisfied by the ending, but I'm going to give you a little insight. And it's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. But don't go into this book expecting some investigation, some like detective thriller. No, just expect to go into this book to kind of read about a family, sister, older sister, younger sister dynamic, and just think about a flawed police system, which is like almost, everyone in the world, but in Nigeria in particular, it's a flawed police system. Just go into this book thinking that, and I think and I believe the ending will not upset you as much. The ending is very satisfactory, and when I finished, I'm like, fair, makes sense. That's exactly how it will end. My Sister the Serial Killer, I finished this and amazing. Okay, and before reading My Sister the Serial Killer, after I had read Yellowface, I read Tender as a Flesh. This is a very, very short read, translated from Argentina by Augustina Bastarrica. I hope I said that correctly. Now, this book is, I don't know how to explain this book well enough, and I don't think I can, but I will say, when you read something and you're like, where the fuck did that inspiration come from? That didn't just like spur out of nowhere, or like, how did they get this inspiration? Like, oh, this probably happened somewhere in real life. This is that book. This is a book where all the animals in the world have contracted the virus, so the government has made it legal to be a cannibal. That's what it is. And you're kind of following through the point of view of one particular man who is very good at like chopping up human bits, and he's basically good at his job, honestly, and it's revolting to him. But also he's lost his son, who was like a couple days old, and his wife, who is still grieving, kind of moved to live with her mother as well, and he's grieving as well. So you're kind of seeing his grieving and reminiscing process, while he has a dad who is gradually declining in like his mental health and stability as well. And he's also it's like a weird day in the life, because everything is normal now, but it's like a weird, this is what's happening. That's kind of how it is. And it's like, the book almost ends and it's like, well, that's my life. I felt like I was reading like I was like watching the YouTube video of someone who lives in like in a dystopian nightmare. That's almost what it feels like. It's very interesting. It's a very, very interesting book, and I highly recommend that. This book is very gory. It's very, very gory, and gosh, I hate that sound. But I don't know how to prepare you for what you're going to read, and I don't know how much I can say on here without, being inappropriate. In a weird way, but interesting, get to see how capitalism, even in this dystopian nightmare where everyone needs to kind of rally together and see what the fuck is going on, capitalism comes in, and there's the government kind of still impacting some kind of rule. So for example, because the animals have a virus, right, there are still birds alive, and they just have this belief that like, the birds might poop on you or just fall. So they construct these umbrellas that everyone is supposed to have. And these umbrellas are supposed to be like used for everyone like in the city and everything. But this particular guy who we are following, his day in the life. He lives in the countryside. So every time he goes to visit his sister, who he hates as well, she's like, why don't you have an umbrella? It's a very weird and interesting read. And I really, really enjoyed it. The end, oh my God, the end was so sad. It was a really, really, it was a really, really inhumane ending. But at the same time, in the context of this book and trying to imagine that like this is the normal, it was like fair enough. So yeah, I highly recommend. So all the books I have mentioned, I recommend them. And that was my humble brag. And I hope you get a chance. I'm trying to avoid the sun so bad, but I hope you get a chance to pick up any of these books. If you see any of these books anywhere, just remember and say, oh yeah, Dami said this book was great, so I'm going to read it because Dami said it was great. You can trust me. I got you, okay? But thank you so much for watching. I've been Dami. Come back when I'm talking about more books that I have read, want to read, or probably just have thoughts about. Leave a comment below if you've read any of these books, and if you have any recommendations. If you've read anything like Yellowface. So the thing is, this was a very, very interesting thing I just realized, because yesterday, I remember saying, I wanted to read something like Yellowface where I follow one person's point of view and I get to kind of just be in their shoes and kind of like experience a weird or interesting or thrilling story. And all these books combined is exactly what it is. I mean, also even with like Viola Davis's book, but it's different because she's a real person. But like from this, just following someone who's living in the dystopian world where cannibalism is a thing, to this person who is cleaning up after her sister's like casual murders as well, to this person who is basically plagiarizing and has stolen a dead person's manuscript to publish his own and is getting a lot of money from it. It's like almost, what's the word, synonymous, is that the word? In a way, it's really, really interesting. But yeah, okay, that's it, I promise. Thank you. Come back next time. I love you. Bye.